So we always look to the primary chords to help us figure out what to do, how to invoke these different reharmonization techniques. So we start out with the one chord, as we almost always do in tunes. We start off with the F chord, one chord, to the 4 chord, and to the 5 chord in the first two measures. So what can we do here? I look at this reharmonization and I see that it starts out with F major 7 as opposed to an F triad. So that's the first rule of the 4 techniques of reharmonization, is that you want to use 7th chords instead of triads. So that was the easiest thing we could do, is just add a 7 on that F triad to make it an F major 7. And then what I did is I used the technique of functional substitution to add motion and complexity to the progression, in the sense that I know that my F major 7 can substitute for D minor 7 in this case. So this case would be the 6th chord. And then I'm going to skip over to the second measure and see that I've got a C7. So one of the techniques that we can use is we always can precede any chord by its dominant chord. So what I did here is I preceded the C7 by a G7. I took it one step further in that I added a flat 9 on that G7. Once again, now I went from having 3 primary chords in the first two measures to these beautiful 7th chords with a new bass line, a more complex harmony with the substitutions, and then that 5 chord in front of the C7 richens things up a lot. Okay, so looking at measure 3, I've got an F major 7, an F major triad, a 1 chord. What can I do there? Well, I did the same thing that I did before. I can always precede anything by its 1 chord, by its 5 chord. So in the case of F, I'm going to precede that by its 5, the C7. So measure 2, and took it one step further and made it a flat 9 on that C7. Now I could have gone to the F major 7 on this measure 3 here, but I used the principle of functional substitution to bring in a D minor 7. So substituting the 6th chord, the D minor 7, for the 1 chord. Once again, sort of unexpected, and just once again adding depth to the tune. So now what do we have here? We have going to a 4 chord on the 3rd measure, down to the 1 chord on the 4th measure there, F major 7, the F major triad. So what I did is I preceded, first of all, on so a lot of times when you're doing reharmonization, you want to look forward to help you decide what to do before that. So for instance, that measure 4 there, F triad, I used functional substitution to play the 3 chord, the A minor 7, instead of the F triad. So that's going to sort of determine what am I going to do before that. So what turned out really nice here is that I got this nice descending bass line from beat 2 and 3 of the 3rd measure, C7 sus4, B flat major 7, into the A minor 7, brought in that really nice descending bass line. So how did I bring that across? I simply just added a major 7 to the B flat chord in the 3rd measure there, and before that I preceded it with C7. Now where does that come from? The C7, looking at the tritone here, is 5 of F, and what I did is I basically interpolated that C7, kind of ignored the B flat major 7 for the moment, and played that, essentially preceded the F in measure 4 with a C, the dominant chord, always being able to precede any chord by its dominant chord. And the B flat major 7 kind of creates a passing chord in between the C dominant seventh and the A minor seven. So a lot of things going on here. So I use the C7 to precede the F triad, but the F triad has been turned into an A minor 7, so that kind of further complicates things. So, and then the C7, what I did is I messed with it. I created a sus4 chord. So C7 sus4 chord, B flat major 7, A minor 7. All of that is unexpected. It's based on the primary chords, the harmony of the original tune, but it's different, and that's where the jazz comes in, that kind of improvisational, unexpected nature of everything. So looking at measure 4, like I said before, a lot of times you have to look ahead to see where you're going in order to find a path there. So I'm going to fast forward up 2 measures to the F on the second measure of the, so that's the 6th measure of the tune. So that F is going to be my kind of focal point. That's where the melody ends with that dotted half note. You've arrived at the tonic on that 6th measure there. So I'm going to use that as my focus, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a 2-5-1 with that F as my focus. So the 2-5-1 being cycle extension in this case. So I'm coming from the F on the 3rd beat of the 4th measure, and I'm going to essentially create that 2-5-1 starting there and extending through the 5th measure to the 6th measure. So here's my G minor 7 on beat 3 of the 4th measure, and then I've got my 2 chord again, G minor 7 again, and here's my 5 chord. I've messed with the 5 chord, made it a sus chord. I messed with it again to create a dominant 7th with a flat 9, and so I changed the tension on there. And then I went a step further. I kind of went for everything that you can do with dominant chords. Is I deceptively resolved it. So instead of resolving it to that F chord, which was really my target, I resolved it to the G flat major 7. So from the 3rd measure of the 4th, from the 3rd beat of the 4th measure, G minor 7, and here on the 5th measure, G minor 7, C7, sus4, resolved it to the flat 9, and then deceptively resolved it to the G major 7. So pretty much threw everything at that couple of measures right there.